Welcome back to the Delaware Way. I'm Larry Menti. Everybody knows how important agriculture is to Delaware. You may not know the struggles that farmers have to go through on a yearly basis. Here to talk about that is Stewart Ramsey, owner of Ramsey's Farm and Newcastle County president and board member of the Delaware Farm Bureau. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Let's start with the Farm Bureau. What does it do exactly?
Sure. We advocate for agriculture. We basically we're also a resource for consumers to find out about where their food comes from and how it's made. We like to play that role more and more. But farmers need a voice, and sometimes a single voice or a lone voice, doesn't get heard. So
when you say you advocate for farmers, are you a lobbying group?
Yeah, we are. We are, sure.
So when farmers have a problem, when a lot of farmers especially have a problem, they come to you and say, we need help.
Yes, and as a farmer, we have kind of interesting needs. Sometimes it's issues about water availability or transportation issues, and not everybody gets our business, so sometimes you need a voice to explain why something about transportation or truck hauling. Just an example, we're loading trucks out in the field. We don't know exactly what they weigh, so we have to have some flexibility. So when we pull out onto the road, if we're a few pounds overweight, we have some extra tolerance there. Whereas another type of freight might actually be sitting right next to a scale when they load. They know they're underweight, and there's nothing more to be said.
Problems that are specific to farmers and agriculture that most of us wouldn't even know unless we were farmers or involved in agriculture. And then you fight for them. There are let's take an example of last summer. I remember talking to somebody maybe from the Farm Bureau that was in here saying that farmers not only in Delaware but across the country needed some federal assistance because there was so much rain last year. Right,
and it is interesting. A lot of folks off the farm, they say, well, lots of rain, farmers, you should be really happy. Well, it's not always that way. In fact, too much rain, if you can't even get your seeds planted, then, the other thing with agriculture is if you can't get your seed planted within a timely manner, you've got 12 months before you can plant that crop again. So you literally may have 12 months without income on that resource. So that's where government aid comes in, whether it's through crop insurance or disaster relief. And you can imagine it's food security. The public, the government, they all have a very vested interest in keeping farmers viable and whole.
It can't be overstated how important agriculture is to the Delaware economy. I just read a figure, and we were talking about it before we started the interview, that per acre, there's more profitable agriculture in Delaware than anywhere else in the country.
Yep, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. The presence of our poultry industry, and then along with all the other industries that kind of follow up behind it, crops and vegetables and specialty crops, but when you take the farm gate income or receipts and divide it by our acreage, we're the highest in the country, even higher than California, and they might find that surprising. California agriculture is awesome, but by that measure, we're number one.
Are the tariffs? I know they were trying to deal with this. The federal government was trying to deal with the effect of tariffs on agriculture. They hurting still?
Yes, absolutely. In the long run, we think these things will get worked out, but food and commodities, they get caught up in these issues with tariffs and whatnot. Soybeans are hugely important to Delaware and the products. Soybean meal is about 1/3 of all the feed that goes to feed these poultry that we kind of just mentioned. So anything that disrupts or causes problems for soybean farmers, and I'm kind of saying soybeans because they are the one that's most hit by that. About 2/3 of our soybean crop was going to China, and there's a fixed resource of land and whatnot, even around the world, right? The earth is not getting bigger,
right?
So when U.S. soybeans can't go or don't go to China, or at least in proportion, the world hasn't changed that much, so soybeans from Argentina or Brazil will go to fill the China void, but then whoever was buying their beans before now has to come to us. So it creates inefficiencies in transportation, and it creates some significant disruptions in the short run. In the long run, things will probably work themselves out. But yeah, we'd like to see the tariffs go away and get back to
all businesses want consistency.
Most,
they want to know what's going to be happening in the next year and the next 10 years.
And when you can have a market as big as China, I mean, literally, you just load ship after ship after ship. I mean, if you go back 15 or 20 years, China was not the the epicenter for soybean demand, but with increases in their economic well-being for their middle class, they're eating more meat, they're buying soybeans for us, and they're feeding pork or hogs in their country, and so that's the way the world turns.
Well, thank you so much for being here. Thanks for being here and shining a spotlight on the agricultural industry in Delaware.
I'm happy to do it. Happy to do it.
Stewart Ramsey, owner of Ramsey's Farm and Newcastle County President and board member of the Delaware Farm Bureau. When we come back, the Brandywine Zoo is back, and I'm certain they'll bring a guest. We'll find out who it is when the Delaware Way continues.